Welcome back, marvelous folks. For today's episode, we thought of revisiting some kick-ass martial arts classics that are often swept under the rug amidst big productions and franchises. The genre of modern action films owes a lot to these martial arts movies from the 80s and 90s. We've witnessed the rise of icons like Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li, followed by Donnie Yen and Tony Jaa, relaying the baton and spearheading a legacy that has had fans flailing their arms or crouching to harness our chi before splintering our mom's favorite collection of vases. Despite the glaring reliance on wires and over-the-top scenes that may sometimes come across as a bit of an overkill, action film as a genre as we know it to be primarily draws on the rich tapestry of films that neatly blend themes of pulp noir and gore in the mold of traditional martial arts and weapons. But not all good things come out of grandiose sets under the banners of high-end productions featuring global icons. So for today's list, we've plucked and assorted 10 films that dare to venture beyond and not shy away from experimenting. So let's make haste and dive right into our list. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Legend of the Fox, 1980. So at number 1 on our list, we have a Venom mob classic that stands the test of time on all fronts, directed by who else but the ultimate chads of the craft, the Shaw Brothers. The cast of The Legend of the Fox boasts a perfect ensemble of absolute powerhouses in the Hong Kong movie scene during the 80s. The movie was an adaptation of a wuxia classic, The Young Flying Fox, written by Xin Yong. For those who aren't privy, wuxia is a Chinese literary tradition centered around themes of martial arts, chivalry, and supernatural interventions. Set during the imperial regime of the Qing dynasty, the story follows the journey of Hu Fei, an orphaned youth who, while making his way into the world, uncovers dark truths about his past and the perpetrators who conspired and orchestrated the death of his father, the legendary swordsman Hu Yidao. In his journey, he's joined by many, including Miao Renfeng, the challenger who went on to become friends with Hu Yidao from sworn enemies. Hu Fei met Miao in the midst of a duel where Miao was incapacitated as he had lost his vision to a vicious, poison-laced letter that the antagonist, Tian, had sent. As the film paces forth, Hu Fei discovers that it has been Tian all along, the cunning trickster who plotted his father's death and the misery in everyone's lives around him. In a true Venom mob fashion, Hu Fei masters his martial arts prowess from his father's secret manual, which has been the envy of many, including the scheming friend Tian. The film sets the tone and paves the way for cult classics like The Crouching Tiger and Hara. The film has it all, from poetic musings oozing in chivalrous duels to enchantments, poisons, and potions weaved in the threads of honor, treachery, love, and brotherhood. Now, coming to the film's action sequences, the fights are every bit gritty, nuanced, and animated as you would expect from a Shaw Brothers flick. Well, with a choreographer like Yun Wu Ping calling the shots behind the cams, there's no way that you will not witness pure magic on the big screen. Three Evil Masters, 1980. So next up, we have The Three Evil Masters. It's a classic chop-socky action-adventure that's sure to reel you in and keep you hooked until the very end, featuring elaborate kung fu styles that segue into a carnival of thunderous clanks of swords and miniature projectile knives in the finale. While the film doesn't do away with the recurring martial arts tropes entirely, as you would expect from a Shaw Brothers classic, it does, however, elevate the portrayal of martial arts in some of the most thrilling showdowns of the film. In terms of plot and themes, it panders to everything that Shaw Brothers productions stand for and offer. A bullied youth named Gao Jian, seemingly weak of frame, chances upon the distinguished kung fu grandmaster Jin Qianyun as he lies beaten and unconscious from a duel against Yan, who is accompanied by two vile henchmen. Gao Jian nurses the ailing master back to health. Upon learning of Gao's distress, Master Yun offers to take Gao under his wing to teach him the unique ways of kung fu that he has practiced and developed for years. Despite being frail, Gao catches up quickly. He is a natural who, through perseverance and grit, shows the promise and determination of a gifted martial artist. The two begin to develop a heartfelt camaraderie of obeisance, typical in a master-student relationship. As Gao continues to make progress, Jin Tianyun is chased by a conniving band of masters, each representing distinct styles, none less feral than the others. The evil masters wield different weapons. Fan Shan uses a tonfa and butterfly sword, while Chao San Kui is a knife expert. And at number 1, Yen in as an expert in tiger leopard boxing, which also has a flair for weaponizing the length of his hair as a tool in combat. Gao assumes charge and takes the mantle from his master to suppress the cunning masters, brutalizing them in body and spirit with his martial prowess and crass humor. So in many ways, it's reminiscent of the classic action parodies of Jackie Chan, which is what the movie aims to achieve and does a damn good job at it. The styles, each varied and clinical in their own right, were never once sloppy and perfectly complemented the different personas in the film. The Blade, 1995. The Blade starred Zhao Wenzhou and was directed by Sui Hark as a retelling of One-Armed Swordsman. The story begins with a master bladesmith who adopts Ding-On, the orphaned child of his murdered friend. As a boy, Ding-On served and assisted in the master's foundry as a blacksmith, whereby he caught the tender attention of Ling, the master's daughter, who also happens to be the film's narrator. As he grows older, he comes to learn of a mysterious, heavily tattooed killer called Flying Dragon, who slew his father in cold blood. Driven by rage, the boy sets out to exact revenge with his father's splintered blade and seeks revenge. Meanwhile, Ling, lovelorn and worried, follows Ding but runs into a group of muggers instead. Ding-On leaps into the scene in an attempt to rescue her, but fails to contend with the thugs who beat him mercilessly to a pulp. Ding-On loses an arm and falls from a cliff. A peasant named Blackie helps nurse him back to health. Ding-On initially abandons his quest for revenge owing to his handicap. He decides to bury his past and lead an everyday life. But things take a turn for the worse when a gang of bandits torches his house and tortures him. This reignites the repressed flames of revenge within Ding-On, who then trains with his father's blade and overcomes his handicap by developing an unconventional fighting method involving spinning movements to overwhelm his opponents. Ding-On hunts down the bandits and kills them. In the film's final arc, we see Ding-On returning to the aid of his master at the foundry, who is under attack by the tattooed killer. What unfolded next was a bloody duel, unlike anything viewers had seen before. The film's cinematography is unconventional, involving a lot of close-ups and shaky camera work to mirror the frantic nature of the fight sequences. The killer's iconic blades and Ding-On's looping in on him like a spinning ball of flame is a rare treat. The Blade has inspired countless classics, like Ong Bak, The Grand Master, and Kill Bill Volume 1, that capture the emotional intensity and the saga of a protagonist who, despite being a victim of circumstances, overcomes obstacles that often manifest in extreme physical setbacks to deliver jaw-dropping spectacles, as witnessed in The Blade. The Last Hurrah for Chivalry, 1979. What if I were to tell you that one of John Woo's most influential films is a criminally underrated gem? It's a film that many likely have not heard of. This film is one of the earlier works of John Woo when he hadn't yet established himself as the giant he is today in the Hong Kong film fraternity and Hollywood. In hindsight, this film offers a peek into Woo's signature tropes and trademark cinematographic techniques from a time when he was still experimenting with new ideas. The Last Hurrah for Chivalry is a fantastic specimen of how he revolutionized the landscape of Hong Kong films that were churned out in the 90s and early 2000s. While the movie still retains the earlier tropes from Shaw Brothers productions and themes of brotherhood and betrayal from Venom Mob classics, it stands out with a distinct palette that is rich in textures and a unique cinematographic vision. At its core, the film is a wuxia classic that explores themes of reminiscence and longing for the past, with stunning symbolic imagery that adds to the emotional depth and turmoil experienced by the protagonists navigating the gray areas of their existence. The film eulogizes the old ways of friendship and chivalric virtues set against a backdrop of dread and inevitability. The story follows two rogue assassins for hire in ancient China, two of the best swordsmen who are the sole owners of their will and owe allegiance to none. They decide to help a local merchant who seeks revenge against a ruthless kung fu master. The plot seldom falls flat, keeping us on the edge of our seats as it develops through numerous twists that blur the notions of morality and virtue. The characters find themselves questioning who truly is honorable and if there's any honor at all. However, the complex dynamics shared between the characters cannot be the only reason the film made the list, if not for the tightly knit fight sequences, would it? This film was also the crowning moment for another martial arts legend, Fung Hakon, whom some may know from Ip Man or as the iconic harpist in Kung Fu Hustle. He choreographed the action sequences in the film while also playing the role of the cocky swordsman. The fight at the end is easily one of the greatest sword clashes in the history of heroic bloodshed. It's a classic that beautifully integrates the intricacies of Kung Fu with flair and elegance. Bodyguards and Assassins, 2009. A historical action drama directed by Teddy Chan set in Hong Kong under British rule, the plot follows how Sun Yat-sen made a trip to Hong Kong to plan the usurpation of power from the Qing dynasty and overthrow the government to start a revolution that will eventually establish the Republic of China. As Sun faces attempts made at his life by the dynasty's secret band of assassins, he's offered immunity and protection by a motley group of people from different walks of life who share his vision. The film provides an insane cast lineup that stars legends hailing from various eras, like Donnie Yen, Wang Quqi, Hu Jun, Leon Lai, Zhang Hanyu, Nicholas Tsay, and the list goes on. With a cast like this, you cannot produce subpar fight scenes, even if you want to. It's a beautifully crafted drama with many pivotal moments of angst and belief that the actors capture with a passionate zeal, especially when Leon Lai stands unfazed as he faces a band of assassins. He wields a fan made of cast iron, sharpened at the edges. It's one of the most spectacular fight scenes that lays bare the character's raw emotions as he dies fighting, but not without handing their asses to them. It's one of those modern action classics that refines the flavor of martial arts to correspond well with a relatively modern era. It blends traditional combat skills like jiu-jitsu, boxing, and MMA with modernized kung fu practices such as sanda and kickboxing. Every fight scene is choreographed to perfection, and the actors do their job, elevating it to levels fans had never seen before. The themes strike a resemblance with some wuxia themes of love, loss, brotherhood, and the duality of modernity pitted against traditions, as found in The Last Hurrah for Chivalry and The Grandmaster. The Swordsman, 2020. This period action drama, set in medieval Korea and directed by Choi Jae-hoon, stars Chang Hyuk as the central protagonist. Korea, or Joseon as it was called, was then under the rule of the Ming dynasty. Tae Yul, a renowned swordsman who served King Gwanghae-gun as a royal bodyguard, falls out with the king when he refuses to join him in his most recent plans to lead a rebellion against the atrocities of the king rule. Min Sung-ho, one of the leaders of the rebellion, challenges Bae Yul to a duel. The two meet with their swords, but Tae Yul's sword shatters, and a shard from the broken pieces pierces his eye, impairing his vision. The king interposes himself, putting a stop to the duel and relieving Tae Yul of his services. Tae Yul retreats into the mountains with his teenage daughter, Tae Ok, where the two eke out a living as trappers. Tae Ok has grown weary of her life. She insists on exploring beyond life in the mountains, but Tae Yul is apprehensive about life outside and does not allow it. However, Tae Ok's dreams are realized when Sun appoints her as a handmaiden at Lee Mokya's request, a dignified member of the court who wrote to the king to resist the Qing dynasty. Tae Ok is elated at the prospect of being adopted by a wealthy family to care for Lee's ailing mother, which means everything to her. However, Gurutai, the corrupt king official, ambushes Lee's court, kills everyone, and abducts Tae Ok and Lee's daughter as captives to negotiate a price. Despite having nearly lost his vision, Tae Yul scours his way through a bloody trail to his daughter through a trail of perilous duels and slaughters. Yul displays exceptional mettle and valor when he takes on and crushes an entire company of King riflemen without so much as batting an eye, governed purely by instincts and years of experience in battle. The Swordsman is one of those rare finds that delivers on all fronts. Chang Hyuk as the blind swordsman almost reminds us of Zatoichi or Rurouni Kenshin in the way he creates and exploits spaces with precise and calculated motions and strikes to deal instant death to his enemies. Unleashed, 2005. Unleashed, also known as Danny the Dog, is a French action thriller made in English, directed by Louis Leterrier and written by Luc Besson. Co-produced by Jet Li and Besson, the film features an impressive cast, including Jet Li, Morgan Freeman, Bob Hoskins, and Carrie Condon. Set during an era when Hong Kong cemented its legacy as the cradle of action thrillers, the film showcases Jet Li stretching his wings beyond his forte of wushu to incorporate various combat styles styles. In some instances, he even lets loose and embraces pure brawling. But it's Jet Li we're talking about. The guy can't so much as groan with guttural screeches without making it iconic. Danny, or Jet Li, is raised and trained to be a collared canine, a literal watchdog in temperament who serves the crime boss Bart. Danny drowns in fury when he's off the leash, leaving no one alive. The film's iconic pool fight, featuring Scott Adkins and others amidst barbed walls, remains a fan favorite among martial arts enthusiasts. He's an absolute menace in this sequence. Despite being outnumbered by attackers twice his size, who are just as skilled, if not more, he stands out as a remarkable combatant, exhibiting the grit of a berserker. It consistently ranks among the top 5 modern action sequences, earning high praise from choreographers and actors alike, who have paid homage to it in their works, including films like John Wick, the Raid series, and Revenger. The Night Comes For Us, 2018, an Indonesian action thriller starring the iconic Iko Uwais, Joe Taslim, and Julia Estelle, the wild and unforgiving hammer girl from the Raid series. This Netflix original has a well-thought-out plot that weaves seamlessly into the setting, and the choreography is awe-inspiring in every fight scene. Each sequence is executed to perfection, choreographed by none other than Iko Uwais and Tri Yulisman, two masters of Silat and Kali. This Indonesian movie does everything right. The action sequences make heavy use of Silat and Kali, featuring an array of weapons like karambits, kukris, and ballistic knives. You name it, the movie has it. The plot follows Ito, played by Joe Taslim, who's among the 6 elite enforcers of the Southeast Asian Triad. During a massacre at a village perpetuated by the Triads to retrieve stolen drugs, Ito has a change of heart, repents his crooked ways, and helps rescue a woman named Reina. He butchers all the Triad members present at the scene and flees to Jakarta with Reina, laying low at his girlfriend's apartment, who treats his wounds and helps him recuperate. The plot thickens when Ito's closest accomplice at the Triad, Aryan, is enticed with an offer to replace Ito and take over his operations. Meanwhile, Ito gets embroiled in a few scuffles as Johan, who, in Ito's absence, takes over, runs his own operations out of a butcher shop. This leads Ito to chase him, resulting in a visceral showdown in the meat locker. Ito's captured by corrupt police officials who raid the scene and kill Johan. Ito somehow manages to set himself free and bravely faces a series of trials and betrayals with the assistance of the enigmatic operator, and eventually escorts Reina to safety by boarding her onto a departing ship. The story doesn't spill out of proportion. The plot is every bit as balanced as it is feral. Chajanto has made official announcements for a sequel that will focus on the enigmatic assassin played by Julia Estelle as the movie's lead. However, he's also mentioned that it's still in the works, and there's no confirmation for it as of yet. While the movie found success, it still hasn't blown up as much as it should have. The movie boldly declares that Indonesia is a destination for New Age action classics. Dragon Tiger Gate, 2006. The martial arts fantasy film starring Donnie Yen, Yuen Wah, and Nicholas Tse, directed by Wilson Yip, is a cult classic among a niche cohort of viewers. However, for the majority on a global scale, it remains largely unheard of. Donnie Yen gives his all in this film, both in his acting and choreography. For an action fantasy that aims to feature sequences that are off the charts and ridiculously over the top, it's easier to make a mess than to design a fight that keeps the audience on the edge of their seat. The film is set in a dystopian Hong Kong that is being infested and controlled by mob bosses like the Triads, who have established the Luocha cult. This Pan-Asian organization perpetuates and gives incentives to organized crimes such as drug trafficking and money laundering. The cult is run by a dictatorial master named Shibumi, who has some of the world's most highly skilled masters of kung fu at his disposal, virtually making him untouchable and feared everywhere across Asia. In contrast, the Dragon Tiger Gate, named after the two protagonists, Dragon and Tiger, is an organization founded by two powerful martial artists with the aim of upholding righteousness and inculcating a sense of justice among orphaned youths by training them in martial arts to topple the threats from the Triads who have ravaged the city. We see that the brothers are separated after Dragon's mother leaves with two halves of a jade mascot for the brothers. When their mother died in a fire, the two were separated. Donnie grew up in the care of a Triad leader named Ma Kun, becoming his most loyal and skilled bodyguard, whereas Tiger grew up with his uncle, Master Xianlong Wang, who now leads the organization. The two grew up in complete completely different sets of circumstances. However, as fate would have it, the brothers cross each other's paths, unaware of each other's identities. The big revelation comes when the two brothers engage in a fight over a plaque, a triad symbol of authority, at a restaurant where Dragon, who was joined by an onlooker, Turbo, has the better of Tiger. It's then that the two discover the other half around each other's necks. Dragon soon renounces his affiliation and reunites with his brother. As everything begins to fall into place, Shibumi takes charge of the helm and sends men to pursue Makun to death. No one stands a chance against the mighty Shibumi, who is endowed with supernatural powers and abilities. Dragon eventually comes to the rescue and thrashes Shibumi with newfound strength and abilities. He mocks and embarrasses Shibumi before dispatching him to his fate with the wrath of the 18 subduing Dragon Palms technique. Chocolate, 2008. We saved the best for last. This film right here easily tops the chart for the list of underrated gems. Prasha Pinakeu directed this Thai masterpiece, and Pana Ridikrai did the choreography. Chocolate, also known as Zen Warrior Within, is the debut film of Thai action star Yanan Vismidananda, the girl you may have seen in The Protector 2 and Never Back Down, No Surrender. Chocolate is an absolute classic. A film like Chocolate is as rare as Halley's Comet. It's a grim tale of an autistic child named Zen, who navigates several hardships from an early age as her mother is abandoned by her lover. Zen has always had a keen interest in martial arts films, especially those starring Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Tony Jaa. Her condition allows her incredible abilities to master complicated movements in a matter of seconds, having observed any move just once. Chocolate does something path-defying entirely with this project, completely flipping the script and our notions of what's normal and possible without relying too much on excessive wires, Parker-esque chases, or fancy weapons. The choreography is simple, capturing the essence of gritty realism in mundane settings that engage everyday people we come across daily. While the influence of Muay Thai is quite significant, Zen often blends her awareness of objects in her surroundings, like Jackie Chan, with the ability to disrupt patterns, like Bruce Lee, to telegraph movements and intercept. Jija, as her fans affectionately call her, certainly burst onto the scene with a glorious first impression, embodying someone who is just as effortlessly gracious on the big screen as Michelle Yeoh while retaining her personal touch. Marvelous verdict. The world of martial arts is something incredible and strange. As a genre, it offers a refuge, a safe space for individuals who are willing to aspire to an ideal of endless possibilities and conviction. That's the way I've always looked at it. The list certainly has no dearth of inspiration and innovation, despite the staggering odds. These films will live on, be it in the folds of our minds or those of us brave enough to set out and build a legacy of our own. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.